Imagine a system so powerful it creates profit out of thin air, not by making things, but by making promises. That system is debt. And over centuries, it has evolved from a simple promise between people into the most profitable machine ever built. Debt funds wars, shapes empires, and keeps the modern world running, but always at a cost. Debt began as a moral question. In ancient Mesopotamia, debts were recorded on clay tablets and regularly erased in jubilees. Leaders knew that when too many citizens were trapped in debt, society itself began to crumble. Even the Bible demanded debt forgiveness every 50 years. The message was clear: debt could destroy a civilization if left unchecked. But as power shifted through the ages, so did the purpose of debt. By the Middle Ages, Europe's church banned usury, the charging of interest, but merchants found loopholes. Loans were disguised as trade contracts. Bankers grew rich in the shadows. Then came the Renaissance. Families like the Medicis built fortunes by financing kings and popes. Debt became not a sin, but a strategy.
The real transformation came in the 1600s. When the Dutch Republic fought for independence, it sold government bonds to its own citizens. Suddenly, war didn't need gold, it needed signatures. England copied the idea, and in 1694 created the Bank of England. For the first time, a nation could live on debt forever, rolling it over endlessly. And those who managed this debt, bankers, creditors, investors, became more powerful than kings. From that point on, the logic was simple: war, profit, repeat. Nations borrowed to fight wars. Wars expanded empires. Empires opened new markets, which created more borrowing. By the 18th century, London's bond market was the beating heart of global finance. Armies marched on borrowed money. The profits were guaranteed, because governments could always raise taxes to pay back their lenders. But the most revolutionary shift came later, when debt stopped being just for kings and became a product for everyone. The Industrial Revolution brought factories, railroads, and workers. To build them, capital was needed, and that meant more borrowing. Soon, ordinary people joined in. They borrowed to buy homes, to build businesses, to live the dream.
By the 20th century, the system was perfected. Debt was no longer a tool, it was a product sold to the masses. Mortgages, car loans, student debt, and credit cards turned borrowing into a lifestyle. The illusion was freedom: buy now, pay later. But the result was dependency. Each monthly payment was a quiet transfer of wealth from millions of people to a small group of creditors. And behind it all, governments joined the game. The Bretton Woods system of 1944 created the IMF and World Bank, promising global stability. But what it really did was globalize debt. Nations could now borrow, but only on the conditions set by their creditors. Entire economies were told what to privatize, what to cut, and who to pay first. Sovereignty was traded for solvency. At home, banks discovered the most profitable idea in history: consumer credit. They realized that ordinary families could be turned into lifelong customers, not through savings, but through borrowing. Debt became the oxygen of capitalism. When wages stopped growing, credit filled the gap. Politicians promised prosperity, but it was borrowed prosperity, and it came with interest. The addiction deepened. Banks didn't want loans repaid quickly. They wanted them refinanced, extended, and expanded. Governments borrowed to fund deficits. Corporations borrowed to buy back their own stocks. The more the world borrowed, the richer the system became. Debt wasn't just a bridge, it was the foundation. Then came the 1970s and 80s. Developing countries borrowed heavily, encouraged by Western banks swimming in recycled oil money. When U.S. interest rates spiked under Paul Volcker, those countries collapsed under the weight of their loans. Mexico's 1982 default sparked a global crisis. The solution? More loans, stricter rules, deeper dependence. Debt had become a trap. Meanwhile, Wall Street found a way to make debt itself a commodity. Mortgages, credit card balances, corporate loans, all bundled, sliced, and sold as securities. The result was staggering profits. Debt could now be traded like gold. But risk didn't disappear. It just moved, hidden inside complex instruments no one fully understood, until 2008.
That year, the entire system snapped. Trillions in mortgage debt imploded. Millions lost homes, jobs, and savings. Banks were rescued. The debt machine, instead of being dismantled, was supercharged. Central banks slashed interest rates to zero and printed money to keep it alive. The crisis born of debt was solved with more debt. Today, global debt exceeds $300 trillion, more than triple the world's total annual production. Every country, corporation, and citizen depends on it. It funds our governments, drives our economies, and fuels the illusion of endless growth. But beneath that illusion lies a simple truth. Debt is not neutral. It is designed to transfer wealth upward, quietly, continuously, and legally. Every interest payment is a small act of redistribution, from the many to the few. Those who own assets borrow cheaply to build more wealth. Those without assets borrow expensively and stay trapped. Debt is the invisible architecture of inequality. And the next phase has already begun. Central banks are testing digital currencies, programmable money that could automate lending, control spending, and enforce payments instantly. For many, this sounds efficient, but history teaches a darker lesson. Efficiency for creditors often means control over debtors. Debt has been with us since the first clay tablet. It has built civilizations, destroyed nations, and enslaved generations. From Mesopotamia to Wall Street, the pattern never changes. Debt enriches those who create it and burdens those who use it. The modern world calls this growth, but if history has a message, it's this. True freedom begins when we understand the chains we can't see. If you want to understand the next collapse before it happens, don't just watch history, learn from it. Subscribe and stay with us as we uncover the patterns behind every crisis, past and present. Because the next shift in money and power won't wait for anyone to catch up.